And so there's a lot of stuff a lot of tax write-offs and deductions that have disappeared. So, your adjusted gross income might be a lot less, but your taxable income, which is the one that matters, that often is the same or sometimes even higher in retirement, because if all you have is pre-tax assets, you're taking out the same dollars that when you're working. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio. Today we're going to be looking at the dirty dozen. And these are some of the tax scams that the IRS has flagged for us to avoid. We're going to discuss some of these today with Eric Heckman. He is a certified financial planner, president at Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. So excited to get started with you today. Let's start off with our phone number. I want you to have this throughout our show. You can call or text the word visit anytime, 800-454-1184. Call or text the word visit. You're going to also hear us talk about our digital toolbox, and that includes Eric's book that he's written and then other informative resources for your retirement. You can text the word toolbox as well. Okay, 800-454-1184. That's the number to remember. Also, our podcast comes out every Tuesday morning. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Just search for the name of our show, Wealth Creator Radio. Eric, hello to you.
Hey, Len. Yeah, it's good to be talking about this because definitely a subject that, probably almost at least once or twice a month, probably, I guess I'd say, the clients have some questions or some issues, and then you go, whoa, that's a scam. And the one actually I see a lot is stuff from DocuSign. And,
really?
And it looks like an official DocuSign thing. It says, it's got the logo and everything. I've even seen spam that has my picture on it, which is like, oh, thanks for stealing my, my info, right?
Gosh, yeah.
And, but one of the first things to do is it's hard on your phones, but it's easier on a laptop. But when you're on your phone, lots of times you don't see the email details. So my little trick is you hit forward. And once you hit forward, it'll show you all the details. And then you can see that the email is like a total bogus email that, has nothing to do with that domain. So the website doesn't say DocuSign and stuff like that. And then that's when delete that. But we've definitely been seeing a lot of it there. So it's you got to watch out. There's a lot of people wanting to steal your money, unfortunately.
Right. The IRS created this Dirty Dozen campaign clear back in 2002 to combat tax scams all across the country. And they do tend to spike during filing season. But we may not have time to go over all 12 today, Eric. But the first one I want to get to is email phishing scams. Tell us about those.
Yeah, well, that's just when they're, like I said, with like the DocuSign or something, they're trying to get you to click on some link that may either load bad software on your computer, or maybe you just start typing in your personal data and it says, oh, you need to reset your password, put your social, put your date of birth, stuff like that. And then they're getting all that data. And,
right.
Sometimes you see it from banks, sometimes you see it from law places. And I must admit, there's some of those that look super good. I mean, now some of them are pretty bad. They've got some really bad, grammar or English, use. And, you kind of go, okay, well, that's kind of a giveaway. A big company like that would, you'd hope have at least spell checked it and things like that. So, but yeah, you do have to watch it because anytime you're clicking on some link, it's always good to ask. I mean, anytime we send stuff to our clients, we say, hey, we're about to send you this, that's real. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it and stuff, just so that way they know. Because otherwise it's always good just to, if you think some company is sending you something, check with them first and then you'll often find out, oops, no, they're not
Right.
sending you anything.
Right.
So you have
Be
to definitely
careful.
be careful. Yeah.
Another warning from the IRS is about bad social media advice. Some of these tax tips that are floating around are just flat out dangerous, could land you in some big trouble with your taxes. Tell us about those.
Yeah, the kind of the craziest one I saw recently was this deal where you invested in this company, and the way you invested in this company, it would have to vote, and so it could
Hmm.
potentially not vote to do this, but basically this company would supposedly buy, things that charities need in bulk and then donate them at the retail price and, theoretically passing on that savings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one that this client sent me, and he was being referred by several of his friends, they said they were doing these, it was this stuff to identify where workers are in like a big warehouse. And if they're in dangerous areas, it would alert, whoever to tell people, oh, it's more hazardous. You're not supposed to be in that area.
Hmm.
So like, oh, okay. And then I looked at the charity. The charity was an after school charity in Fort Worth, Texas that did youth programs.
What?
and,
What?
and you just got to go, what the heck's this
Yeah.
charity ever going to do with this stuff? They
Well,
don't
yeah.
have any warehouses. They don't have any,
Especially in
and,
California, right? I mean,
but the way they were billing this was, here, you invest this 50 grand and we're going to give you, a $200,000 tax write-offs
right.
because of we're going to buy in bulk and then donate at retail level. And first of all, is it really that big a discount? Is it really that big a difference? And that's really kind of scammy. And then once you looked at who that charity was, it's like, what? They would never even use this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you got to watch out. There's a lot of scammy things on the internet.
Another common scam, Eric, involves scammers pretending to be third parties helping taxpayers set up personal accounts on irs.gov.
Yeah, no, don't ever, if somebody's calling you supposedly from the IRS, they're not. They don't call people. They don't have enough people to do that. So they send you letters. So don't ever answer the phone to anybody who's saying that, or if they are, if they're saying that they're with IRS, just hang up and mark it spam and block the phone number, and don't ever answer that or give them any info. And especially if there's some sort of charity supposedly going to help you with tax or skip all that stuff. And one of the things that I think for us is really having people be educated not only about the bad stuff out there, but also the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing we do have is we have a vault that we've kind of set up, and or I guess I should say a toolbox that we've set up that really has all these great quick reads to educate yourself about, what's the right decision for Social Security? Am I paying too much tax in retirement? Will my money last as long as I do? Even have a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set up a time to meet with me, Eric Heckman. If you want to get all that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we're so happy you're joining us today. Thank you so much for listening to Wealth Creator Radio. I want to mention here, Eric holds many events throughout the year. And all you have to do is head to that website, Wealth Creator Radio, to find out details, even sign up for them on their website. I want to make sure you know that. So thank you again for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. We're spending some time on our show today talking about the dirty dozen. And these are tax scams that are out there that the IRS is warning us about. And then you already just mentioned the fake charities. They're the big one they're saying is that people are setting up fake charities.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good just to check out the charity, go to their website, find out reviews. There's a couple websites also that you can, where they rank charities in terms of how much they're doing and how much is going to admin and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely good to see if they're real because, you do have to watch out. I mean, obviously, it's a big name place. Red Cross, things like that.
Yeah.
The ones that we all know, United Way. Okay, those you can kind of count on. But yeah, if it's something a little funkier sounding, just definitely check it out to make sure.
And again, just to clear up confusion here for anybody listening, tell us the difference between tax preparation and tax efficient strategies, which is what you guys do. You help people with those strategies.
Yeah, well, tax prep is I really equate it more to tax reporting. So it's kind of like the reporter at the scene of the crime. This is what happened. There's nothing you can do about it. It's all over. It's done with. That's what you do between February and April every year, right, for your tax return. Tax planning or tax efficient strategies are things that you do maybe at the end of the year for the next year or the beginning of the year or just all throughout the year of how do you save money? How do you just pay less over your lifetime? And that's really what we're shooting for with our clients. So again, we've got some great information like, am I paying too much taxes in retirement? It's one of the options in there. And all of that's located in our digital toolbox. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Are you happy with your Medicare plan? Even if you are, what was good for you this year might not be what's best for you next year. The team at Heckman Financial can help you sort through all the options to find the best one for you. Call now, 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hi there, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. So happy to have you along with us today. You know, so many of us spend decades accumulating wealth for retirement. And then we end up worrying about whether or not our money's going to last as long as we do. So, we're all living longer. That seems to, it's a good thing, but it's a concern. And then, of course, inflation, that's going to impact our whatever we buy, okay? And then market volatility. So the old rules of retirement planning may no longer be enough. So, Eric, I want to talk about the foundation. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen facing today's retirees and the fact that maybe those traditional retirement planning approaches might be obsolete?
Well, I mean, for most of us, unless you work in government or teaching and some nonprofits, pensions are pretty much gone, right? So, it might have been your parents or at least your grandparents who, would work for one company for 25, 30 years and retire and, they'd have that lifetime income. Their own savings was just like for fun stuff, right? For the boat, for the
Yeah.
the vacations, other fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, it's all on you. There's nobody else. And of course, also retirement used to be 5, 10, maybe 20 years was impressive. And, nowadays, it's not unheard of to have people, living in their 90s and even hundreds. I mean, I've got a couple clients that have parents still alive and they're in their 70s.
Oh my gosh.
So their parents are in their hundreds or 90s. And so that of course also makes people worried, right? How long's, how long are you going to be around for? How long are you going to need this money? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and then beyond that, I mean, some of the biggest things is, what happens you lose the money or something happens and, you run out of money. There was a study years ago by the insurance company Allianz, and one of the really interesting things they found out this was focused on women is that they had a huge fear of being a bag lady, of literally, being on the streets and it's funny because after talking about that, it's amazing how many women actually do totally have that. And so how do you make a plan, right? How do you make sure that money lasts? And that's the key question.
Yeah, it really is. So, inflation has been hitting retirees really hard right now. And, you think about it, even if those inflation rates come down, prices are never going to go back to where they were. I think about when I was a kid and it was penny candy or 10-cent bags of chips. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So how can retirees create income streams that are going to keep pace with rising costs rather than falling further behind each year?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you have to plan for. I mean, stuff, over about 20, 30 years, everything's going to be at least cut in half, if not, even more in terms of spending power. So flip side of that is, double or triple, right? So, what used to cost you, $10 at some point will be $20. And, like you said, even if inflation slows down, the prices don't go backward. I mean, it's just, they stay high. And,
Right.
And that's just that way things always will work. So you can't just retire on a certain dollar amount. And, like if you, say you do the numbers now and you need 8,000 a month, well, you can't just live on 8,000 for the next 20, 30 years because it's not going to feel the same later on. So, so that's one of those things where, some of your money needs to be guaranteed. things like Social Security do have that cost of living increase, but you also need to have that money growing some of it, and you need a blend of it. So it's really not about one specific thing. It's really how do you put all these things together, right? And and also looking at taxes. I mean, taxes are the number one thing that retirees spend money on, and almost nobody talks about that, which is weird.
I
They talk
know.
about healthcare a whole bunch, but they don't talk about taxes. And making your lifetime taxes lower is a way to basically combat inflation, right? Because you're not going to have to come out of pocket so much. So again, that's why we've set up that digital toolbox here at Heckman Financial. It's a way to get some education, get some great data, get some great info. These are really quick reads. They're about 10 pages long, and things like, am I paying too much taxes in retirement? Will my money last as long as I do? Exactly what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And also the Social Security timing decision. We've got things like the digital version of my copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk to Team Heckman here. So all you got to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
And we just thank you so much for spending time with us today. I do want to mention that our show is also available on podcasts. So wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the name of our show, Wealth Creator Radio. It comes out every Tuesday. So you can always remember, if you miss our show on the weekend, you can catch a brand new podcast on Tuesday. So again, thanks for joining us. You're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. All right, so you mentioned it. Traditional pensions are becoming extinct. Then Social Security, it's the bedrock of retirement for millions of Americans, but it's so complex to understand, all the ins and outs of Social Security, and people tend to make costly mistakes. So, Eric, tell us, what are you seeing? What are some major mistakes that you're seeing people make when it comes to claiming those Social Security benefits?
Well, probably the number one thing is just not having a plan. I don't know how somebody can turn on their Social Security benefits without having in the context of an overall plan. So it's kind of like buying a plane ticket without knowing where you're going.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really make sense. So what you need to do is make sure you know what you need to know, right? And you can't just ask Social Security. Unfortunately, they'll tell you some stuff, but if you don't ask the right questions, they're not going to give you the right answers. And if you don't know the question, how could they answer that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, one annoying part is the spousal benefits are not something that you can see online very easily. So if you're married and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who should claim which one first? It's not super easy to see, like compare, the two records and such, because it's an individual login. It's not a marital login, right? There's no joint benefits login, which would have been nice if if they could go
I
that route.
agree. Yeah.
But unfortunately they don't. And things like divorce benefits, widow benefits, there's all these other specialty type of situations that may or may not apply to you. So those ones you really need to know about. But probably the biggest thing is knowing why to take it when you want to take it. And it's really to see which one will raise your net worth by age 80 or 90. And so most people say, oh, I'm going to have this many Social Security dollars versus this many Social Security dollars. Nope, that's not the right answer. The right answer is which one's going to have my net worth be higher at age 80 or 90? And then that's the right decision. And sometimes, quite often, it is actually starting sooner than later because you've got that money coming in. Again, it depends on when you retire, depends on a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah. So, Social Security is very complex, and trying to figure out how to optimize it on your own, I think, would be really hard. Like you said, everybody has a different strategy, or should, because everybody's situation is different. So why don't you just take us through how you help your clients figure out how to optimize those benefits? Do they start at 62? Do they take part of the spouse's benefit? Tell us how you figure all that out, Eric.
yeah. So, I mean, the only way, like I said before, is the only way I can figure out how to know the right, way to go with Social Security with everything is really having that income plan. So that income plan looks at your assets today, what types of tax, 401k, Roth, regular dollars, Social Security dollars, all those things. Your spending along with inflation, medical costs, all the stuff that you need to plan for in retirement. And then from there, we can make educated decisions about which way to go, which things make sense, which buckets of money to take money first. Should you be doing Roth conversions? When, what ages? All that stuff is very super easy to see in an income plan. But without that, I find it almost impossible to figure out what's the best way to go. So, again, if you want to access that digital toolbox with all that great downloads, all you have to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio. That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Hi there. Glad to have you with us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. So think about this. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefits could be taxable, okay? And then those tax thresholds haven't been adjusted for inflation since 1993. So think about that. That means more retirees could be getting hit with this hidden tax every single year. So Eric, I want you to give us an overview of how Social Security does get taxed and give us strategies that can actually work to help us keep more of our own benefits in our own pockets. That's the name of the game.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, avoiding Social Security taxation is getting close to impossible almost by now. They first started taxing 50% of it for those rich people that were making single 25,000 or 32,000 married. That was in the 1980s.
Oh my gosh.
And then, like you said, they raised it in 1993 to the 85% of it being taxable. But again, to the rich people in the 90s of 34,000 or married 44. So the silliness there, of course, is they did not inflation index these at all. So, these should be in the hundreds of thousands now or something like that. But it was a secret tax increase that they've been doing by just not, inflating it. Right. So some people literally just their Social Security benefits alone will cause their Social Security benefits to be taxed. In that case, there's nothing you can do. Now, for some people, you might not pay tax on the whole amount. Depends on what other assets you're taking out. If you've got a lot of money in Roth, you could be taking tax-free money from there. Obviously, if you spend like principal in a savings account, it doesn't count. The interest counts. One thing that people don't realize counts is tax-free interest. It causes your Social Security to get taxed. So it's like, hold it, that's tax-free, but no. It's a thing called modified adjusted gross income. And the modification is we're going to throw in tax-free stuff and tax you on the tax-free stuff.
Oh my gosh, they sneak it in everywhere.
So the only nice part is, at least in California and most states, that Social Security benefits are not taxable on the state side. So your state tax gets to be a lot less.
Okay.
But the federal, it's not going away anytime soon. So, it is something to be planned for.
Okay, so a lot of people assume that their tax bill is going to fall once they retire and stop collecting that paycheck, but that's not true. I think, and you've mentioned this all the time, how retirees are just stunned that they're going to, have to pay taxes in retirement, which is, it's kind of interesting to me because you figure you're going to pay taxes your whole life. Anyway, talk about this, how this happens when their salaries disappeared and what is driving those unexpected tax bills, Eric?
Well, for most of my clients, they were doing what you're supposed to be doing towards the end of their working careers, which is maxing out that 401k, right? So, if you're putting 30,000 in the 401k and then you retire, you feel like, well, hold on, I'm making more than 30,000 less, so should I pay less tax? Well, you weren't really paying tax on that because, you were doing the pre-tax 401k. So one thing is your taxable income wasn't quite as high. And then, of course, I hope your kids are no longer dependents by the time you retire. But so you don't have those write-offs. Your mortgage hopefully is a little lower, so you don't have that write-off as much. And so there's a lot of tax write-offs and deductions that have disappeared. So, your adjusted gross income might be a lot less, but your taxable income, which is the one that matters, that often is the same or sometimes even higher in retirement, because if all you have is pre-tax assets, you're taking out the same dollars that you would when you're working, right? I mean, it's no difference in taxation, except for now you got Social Security and it's getting taxed because of all that other taxable money you're taking out. So,
Hmm.
yeah, lots of times people end up, being the same or sometimes higher tax bracket in retirement. And then now, once you're in your mid 70s, I've seen people where their tax brackets will be higher than they ever were when they were working, because
Dang.
that's when you have to start taking those required minimum distributions out of your
Hmm.
IRAs and 401ks, and it's brutal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's kind of sad. I wish we could change that for senior citizens and
Yeah, well, you
retirees.
can fix it now by not, by changing your path, but yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta take some work on it, and you're not gonna cure it all, but at least, yeah, there are steps you can take to fix a lot of this.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, let's focus on some strategies. Okay, for somebody listening, and they say, okay, I got to take control of my tax situation. I can't just react in April, right? Tell us about proactive strategies that you guys use that will help move that needle to help them, manage that tax burden in retirement.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I was just meeting with somebody who's in his late 50s and he's looking to retire around, well, as he calls it, he wants to peace out, which I thought was fun.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
around
do.
65 or 70, I mean,
Mhm.
65 or 67. And
Yeah.
100% of all his assets right now are all pre-tax. So right now, it was pretty easy. I can just tell him you've got a 100% tax problem because you have no other options,
Right.
and all your assets are gonna be. So one thing is, okay, can we start funding Roth IRAs,
Hmm.
or Roth 401k, I should say. Stop funding the pre-tax one and start funding the one where you don't get the tax benefit today, but all that money will grow tax free for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
and then that'll give him some options at retirement. And, so that's a simple one. Also, we could look year by year to see if we can do Roth conversions, or at least once he retires, we could be doing some Roth conversions. So there's a lot of things that you could be doing, but you can't. It's not something where you can go, okay, I'm retired, and now I want to plan for this. It's like, no, 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 too late.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why we're trying to work with people before they get there, and hopefully at least mitigate some of it. And then also in retirement, you have to take money from your tax deferred stuff like your 401ks, IRAs.
Mhm.
So you need to have your regular dollars super tax efficient, because you're probably not going to spend those as much because of now you have to take the other money, right? So again, it takes a plan. So, if you want to get a little bit more details, a little bit more information, all you got to do is to get access to our digital toolbox, which has a lot of great resources like Am I Paying Too Much Tax in Retirement? A copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk to Team Heckman. All you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Take advantage of all of this, the appointment, the toolbox, all complimentary. So please keep that in mind. That's why we're here every day to help guide you with your retirement planning. And we thank you so much for spending part of your day with us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. So, everybody listening, watching, we all have our own unique financial situation. Everything's different, our assets, our goals, and all of that. So, Eric, when you do meet with a new client, someone who calls you from the radio or from watching our podcast, and they're like, okay, I need a plan. I need to structure a plan, help me manage all these things, future taxes, all that. Tell us, what's the first thing you do? Walk us through that.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the first things to do is just find out what are their worries, what are their concerns, because our whole planning process is about worry less wealth. We want you to retire more with worry less wealth, which means having more fun, but not having to, like when you're watching that gas gauge and you're near empty. We don't want that feeling, because that's not a way to retire, right?
No.
You don't want to be looking at your portfolio bounce every day to see if you should go on a vacation or have fun today. So first thing to do is just find out what worries, concerns, what have you done, where are your assets today. And then from there, we actually go through a blueprint process, which is kind of like basically saying, if, say you're driving down to LA from San Jose, and, all of a sudden you see the Sierras in front of you. It's like, well, okay, you're heading the wrong way. So, we need to turn right and, start heading south. So, we'll tell you if there's any major issues, but also we'll tell you what's in that blind spot indicator. Why is that light on your side of your mirror and stuff? And what's there to watch out for. And once we've able to do that and look through that investment plan, that income plan, taxes, healthcare legacy plan, that's all the information that we need. And, then you'll know if you're good or not. So there's no cost, no obligation for doing that planning. So if you want to take advantage of that, all you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Text the word visit 800-454-1184 or click the link below.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi there, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. So happy to have you with us. Retirement is one of life's biggest milestones, but there are a lot of myths out there that could lead to costly mistakes. Today, that's what Eric's going to help us with. He's going to bust some of those myths today, those common ones that happen with retirement to help you make sure that you are planning more savvy. Eric, tell us, what would be the first myth that we need to address?
Well, the big one, and it's really true, the easiest way to think about this one is, how much do you spend on the weekend versus during the week? I'd say most people, there's 2 days a weekend and 5 days of a week, right?
Mhm.
But somehow you're able to spend sometimes twice or three times as much on the weekend than you do during the week. Well,
Yeah.
if you got 7 days of weekends, right, you have the capacity to spend a lot more money. You got a lot more time. You got a lot more fun stuff that hopefully you'll be doing. And so, if you're traveling, if you're maybe going out to, eat more, if you're a golfer, maybe you're golfing more, some of those things cost money, some maybe not. I mean, if you're going off hiking and other things, maybe it's not as much, but you'll definitely, at least in those early, what we like to call those go-go years, the first 5 to 10 years of retirement, statistically speaking, you're going to spend more.
Yeah.
Yeah, then usually it'll slow down, but at least those first 5, 10 years, you want to be budgeting for that fund, as I like to call it. You want to have some money set aside for all that fun, and that way you can go do the things that you always wanted to do.
Exactly. Yeah. You better budget for it because that makes me so worried. Oh, yeah. Every day's Saturday. Okay. What's another myth then that people are believing, but it's a myth?
Well, probably the big one is people think Medicare is, once you have it, you're all set, you're all good, it's fairly inexpensive. Well, not quite. So the biggest one is, I don't know why our healthcare system thinks your mouth and your eyes have nothing to do with your, rest of your body. But, since we have this whole separate system for vision and dental, I had one client years ago, she passed away now, but she was like, when I die, I want these on display, pointing to her teeth, and she's like, because there's 28 grand in there, and she's like, that's the most I've spent for anything. And so,
Yes.
so that's one of those things where, implants, other stuff. I mean, a lot of medical costs that you need to have a sinking fund or, kind of just a be prepared fund for those medical costs, because you're going to still have copays. You're going to still have, especially dental and vision costs that are not covered typically.
Yeah. And they always say, you have to take care of your teeth because many diseases in your teeth will lead to like heart issues. That's why, like you said, I can't believe that it's not part of Medicare. Okay.
Yeah.
What's next as far as another myth goes?
Well, in our movie that we did, The Psychology of Retirement, one of the things they talk about is that about half of all Americans rely on Social Security alone. That is their only retirement source. And there is no way that that's going to be enough for anybody to live in. Maybe if you go to some foreign country that's pretty cheap, maybe you can live on your Social Security, but I don't know where in the US you're going to be able to do that. So you need to have some savings. You need to have those retirement assets to make sure you can get by.
Yeah, definitely true. Any other assumptions we need to avoid that you're aware of?
Well, I mean, some of the ones is, really people thinking that they're going to work. I was at a tax seminar, but this one person that was doing some really, really boring, super analytical stuff that I would never share with a client. It bored me to death. But
Oh, no.
one of the interesting slides that she did have was talking about how many people when people retire and when people say they want to retire. And so many people, more than 50%, were retiring way before they thought they were going to retire. And lots of times it's because you don't have a choice. Often it's because you get laid off into retirement. And then, I mean, especially Silicon Valley area, if you got gray hair and you're not wearing flip flops and a hoodie or something, right?
Yeah.
You're more pricey than other people, and
Yeah.
so at some point they want to just get rid of you. They won't say it, outright, but
Yeah.
we all know the reality.
Yes.
And so that's one of the tough things is it's really, you might think you're going to be able to retire a lot later, but sometimes you can't. And how much did you save? Do you have enough, right? Is it going to work out? Or are you going to have to try to find some sort of lower paying job just to get by and things like that? So yeah, you have to be prepared that your job might end faster than you thought.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
tough. And I would say, I haven't done the stats on it, but I'd probably say at least a quarter or more of my clients end up laid off into retirement.
Hmm. That's so, yeah, that worries, me for a lot of people because you're right, that does happen. You're not planning on retiring that young. And then all of a sudden you find yourself maybe 60 years old and going, well, I was going to work, another eight,
Right.
10 years. Yeah, that's scary. So if somebody finds themselves in this situation or really, they have questions about Social Security or, Medicare, anything that we're talking about right now, they can certainly call you because, oh my gosh, this is what you do, Eric, every day, almost 24/7, maybe not 7 days, but for sure 5, right? So people can call you and get some guidance on any retirement issues.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if they want to text the word visit, super easy. You just text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, you can text the word visit 800-454-1184. Or if you're watching online on the podcast, you can click the link below and we'll go over, what kind of financial concerns you have, see what's going on, answer any questions, and then, there's no cost, no obligation. We'll just go from there. And if it makes sense to get together, we can kind of go from that process and go through that blueprint to worry less wealth process. So, again, text that word visit to 800-454-1184.
And we're so happy you joined us today. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. I do want to add that Eric and his team have been helping people just like you for the past 30 years. They've been helping people have remarkable retirements. So they know what they're doing. Okay. I mean, 30 years of helping people, that's a lot of people. And what's your plan? Your mission, your goal to help
Well,
1,001.
1,001,
Yeah.
yeah, 1,001 people by 2031,
Yeah. By
help them retire. So,
2031.
yep.
How about that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why we don't mind talking to people because
That's
it gets
right.
our numbers up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, okay. So, we're talking about common myths that people believe about retirement, but they're actually myths. So, give us another one. Any other myth we should cover?
Well, I mean, ideally trying to pay off at least all those debts. Now, you may not get the mortgage paid off, especially in California, a little tougher. If you can, that's great. But, at least you know, get most of that, all that paid off, car loans, anything else. And one of the big ones I see people doing is probably being a little too helpful for their kids, their adult
Mhm.
kids. At some point you have to go, there's financial aid for college, but there ain't financial aid for retirement. So, you
Right.
know, uh, don't be, helping them to your detriment where you're not going to have a good retirement. And, most likely somebody didn't help you quite as much as you're helping them. So you don't
Yes.
have to
Right.
necessarily do the same. Let them struggle a little bit. It builds
Yeah.
them stronger and gets them there. Right.
Yeah. Okay. One final myth. What would that be on your list?
Well, probably the last one is just making sure, you've got your legacy plan set up right. Who's going to get your assets? Who's going to get what, dollars? Is all do you have a trust set up? Is it all, directed to the right spot? Did you keep it up to date? Yeah, that's a big one. And make sure all those beneficiaries haven't changed when companies merge. Sometimes those beneficiaries can get messed up too. And also have some directions for the sentimental stuff. That's the stuff that gets
Oh.
more people in trouble than anything. I mean, I see more fights over, stuff like grandma's shoes or somebody's artwork or,
Yeah.
some sort of
Mhm.
trinket that has no real value, but people really want it and stuff.
Right.
So, and then they
Right.
start
Right.
fighting over that. So,
Mhm.
But again, if you want to set up a time to talk and, really kind of dive deep a little bit more and answer any questions, super easy. Just text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184, or click the link below if you're watching online.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial, where their mission is to get you to and through a worry-less wealth retirement. So it's time now I'm going to have you give us an example of someone who has experienced one of those retirement obstacles. Have you kind of explain that to us? We call it a financial fail.
Yeah. So, when you're working, you get that W-2 and you do your taxes at tax time, right? And you either owe money or get money back. And there's not necessarily a lot that you do typically, right? And so I had a client, Dan, he came to me right when he was turning 70 to retire. This was back before they raised the limit to now 73 for required minimum distribution, but he was going to have his required minimum distribution that same time frame. But, he'd retired. He figured he'd be in a low tax bracket. He'd gotten married with his wife kind of late in life, just a few years earlier, actually. And so they both had waited till 70 for Social Security. So they're getting like 80 grand of Social Security.
Wow.
The first year, only 14,000 of it was taxable. So Great deal, right?
Yeah.
But then he would take money out of his retirement account. Well, all he had ever done his whole career, and again, he met me right as he was retiring. He was supposed to plan ahead.
Late. Yeah.
Not the day of. And, and so when he did that, everything was pre-tax. So there was nothing we could do tax planning wise. And so that next year he took out money out of his IRA because he had to, and with the required minimum distribution, plus he needed some of it to live on. And all of a sudden 56,000 of that 80,000 of Social Security was now taxable.
Oh, no.
Because he took money out of his IRA. So a $30,000 withdrawal from an IRA caused another $40,000 of taxable income. It's like, what? How is that possible, right?
Yeah.
So he was so surprised at tax time that guess what he had to do to pay the taxes? He had to take more out of his IRA.
No.
And so the next year, 70,000 of his 85,000 of his tax was taxed.
Oh my
of that
gosh.
Social Security. And again, we're not talking, people talk about, Roth is for leaving more money to the kids, and if I don't have kids, why do I care? And, blah, 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 stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
No. This is how the IRA, how his 401k was affecting his Social Security taxation. You don't get told about this, right? Nobody talks about that aspect of things. And so that, again, that's something where had we thought about this ahead of time, had we met 5-6 years earlier, 10 years earlier, we would have had some time to say, let's start doing some Roth stuff. Let's do some other stuff where we have some money that's tax free or tax advantage. So we don't have to jump up into these higher brackets, cause all sorts of other taxation, right? Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.